Hey, greetings! Michael DDA here. Thank you for joining me. Oh, last week we saw that our friend, my very good friend, Jacob died. He's going to be buried today. Oh my goodness. Wait till you see what happens at his burial. We have so many interesting things to talk about today. Well, let's do a quick review and we'll get on with the story. Last week, we saw that Jacob and his family, his sons and their families, all came to Egypt. They were introduced to Pharaoh. 5 men. We don't know who they are in Torah, but we do know who they are in Yasher. 3 of Leah's sons, plus Benjamin, plus Jacob. They came in. It says here that Jacob blessed Pharaoh. We found out yesterday or last week he didn't bless Pharaoh. He bowed before Pharaoh when he came in, and he bowed before Pharaoh when he came out. No blessing. There was no blessing. Pharaoh asked him a question. He said, "How old are you?" Remember his answer. He said, few and evil. I'm 130 years old. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, but they have not attained to the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. Well, he left. He bowed before Pharaoh one more time. But for the next years, Joseph provides food and sustenance, clothing, everything that his family needs come from Pharaoh through Joseph. The bread, the clothing, the land, everything. Well, we're still in the second year of the famine. Remember, the second year, they're still bringing money. The third year, they start bringing their livestock. And it says, thus he fed them with bread in exchange for all their livestock that year. Now the money's gone. The livestock's gone. We're in the fourth year. He's going to buy them and their land. They are now going to become his servants. And all this is coming in. Look at, this is all coming from where? Let me see if I find it. Here it is. Gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan. Now the land of Canaan is going to become Pharaoh's servants. The land of Canaan is going to become Pharaoh's land. This is all done because of what Joseph did. Joseph is loved in Egypt. He's preserved life. He's created wealth for Egypt. They're able to do things in Egypt that they've never been able to do because they have so much money. It says he moved the people into the cities. He says, indeed, I have bought you and your land this day for Pharaoh. He's going to give them seed. They're going to plant the seed. 1/5 of the crops is going to come to Pharaoh. 4/5, 80% is going to go to the people for their sustenance and for their seed for the following year. They are all Pharaoh's servants. This is happening in Canaan as well. Well, last week I said this. We're on verse 27. So Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen. And they had possession there and grew and multiplied exceedingly. I thought it was interesting that they said they grew. and not were fruitful and multiplied. Well, you know what? It turned out they were fruitful and multiplied. And when I got to Yasher and saw this very same verse, it said fruitful and multiplied. So it caused me to go back and look at the word in this verse. Look what it is. It's para, which means to bear fruit. Why do they say grew and multiplied exceedingly? I don't know. They were fruitful and multiplied exceedingly. I was willing to accept that because I know that by the time we leave Egypt, we are a stiff-necked people who do not know the ways of Yahovah. But you know what? When we were in Egypt for that first 71 years, no, 81 years, 39, no, I guess that'd be 71 years. 39 is what Joseph is right now, and he's going to die at 110. For those 71 years, we are blessed. We are protected from Pharaoh. We're going to see today that one of the instructions that Jacob gave to Joseph was to protect his people from Pharaoh and have them serve only Yahovah. Well, once Joseph dies, we're going to be tricked. Tricked. That's what the world does. They trick you. They use different words. They don't give the truth. They don't rule with equity and justice. We're going to see within a few weeks that we're going to be tricked into working for Pharaoh. We didn't work for Pharaoh before. We were shepherds, blessed, provided for by Joseph. But soon there's going to be a Pharaoh who's going to arise that does not know Joseph. Well, Jacob knew he was dying. He made his son Joseph swear, put his hand under his yarak. Remember, we were talking about the yarak, the private place. Swore an oath that he would have his father buried at the cave of Machpelah. Well, that finishes 47. Here's 48. We went through 47, 48, and 49. Look at the very first verse. This is very interesting. Now it came to pass after these things that Joseph was told, "Indeed, your father is sick." And he took with him his two sons. Who are they? Manasseh and Ephraim. When we're talking about Joseph's two sons, we're talking about Manasseh and Ephraim. But when we're talking about Jacob's two sons, we talk about Ephraim and Manasseh, because Jacob set Ephraim before Manasseh. Let's find it. This is very interesting, and this explains something that we saw in Yasher last week that needed more clarification. Look what Jacob says. And now your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, he switches the order. Manasseh's the eldest. When Jacob thinks of his two sons, he thinks Manasseh and Ephraim. Remember, Manasseh was the one who did all the great feats of strength, of wisdom. He loves Manasseh. Doesn't hardly say anything about Ephraim, but now Ephraim's getting the blessing. What's up with that? Listen to what he says. And now your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to Egypt, are mine, as Reuben and Simeon. They're yours, like Reuben and Simeon. They shall be mine. Your offspring, whom you have after them, shall be yours. They will be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. Isn't that interesting? He's talking to Joseph, Jacob is. And it says he blessed Joseph and said, the Elohim before whom my father Abraham and Isaac walk, the Elohim. It said, who has fed me? I had a big deal about this last week. I put in El Shaddai. And I thought, why did I have El Shaddai there? And it's because I was thinking about this feeding of Jacob throughout his life. And the El Shaddai actually came from up above here in verse 3. See it right here? Then Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai, the Elohim who provides, appeared to me in Luz, in the land of Canaan. He is the provision that Jacob has always depended upon. And I looked at this morning. Here's the word. It's ra'ah, ra'ah. But this is ha-ra'ah. It can mean, look what it means here, tend, flock, pasture, graze. But look what it also says, generally to rule, as in a shepherd, an associate. I think we're talking here, and it gets translated this way. I'm not coming up with anything new. Look at this. Down at the bottom here, it says pastor, shearing house, shepherd. I think what Jacob is saying is that the Elohim, comma, the shepherd of my life long, of all my life, or of my life long to this day. Sometimes it doesn't flow as well, but this is what it's saying. I think he's saying that Yehovah is his shepherd. He's the one that has led him to the pastures and the provision that he needs. Remember that word shad, as in Shaddai, my provider, has to do with breast. Which comes the provision, the life force that we need. The bread of heaven, if you will. Well, it says, so he blessed them all that day, saying, by you Israel will bless, saying, may Elohim make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And thus he set Ephraim before Manasseh. Well, remember, he told Joseph that he wanted Joseph to swear, in the end of last chapter, swear that he would bring him back to the land of Israel. The land of Israel. The land of Canaan, to the cave of Machpelah, so he could be buried with Abraham and Sarai, Isaac and Rebekah, and Leah. Ooh, so much things to see. But now he's going to say, I am dying, but Elohim will be with you and bring you, this is y'all, back to the land of your fathers. All your fathers, Abraham and Isaac and Israel. The last chapter in Torah that we covered last week had to do with the blessings. Blessings. Maybe they weren't all blessings. Some of them were a little bit of a curse that he put on his sons. Listen to the first one. He's talking about this is what's going to befall you. This is what you're going to encounter for you in the last days. He says, Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. Sounds good. But listen to how he finishes. Unstable as water, you shall not excel, because you went up to your father's bed. Then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. Well, we went through all the blessings of these boys, all the things that he had to say about him. But look at this. It says, and Jacob called his sons. His sons, here's the word. It's banim with the his being added to it. So we got to think of this as his sons, his banim. The vav says his. But now, in the next verse, it says, gather together, and here they translate it as you sons of Jacob. It's not what it says. It says, gather together. Gather, let me fix this. I put gathered. Gather together, and hear Jacob's seed. I think he's talking to more than just his sons. I think in these prophetic utterances, I've been calling them blessings, prophetic utterances, we're really talking about what's going to happen to Israel as a whole. Reuben's seed, Simeon's seed, Levi's seed, Judah's seed. He's talking to Jacob's seed. The sons are part of the seed, but they go way beyond that when we're talking about Jacob's seed. I'll tell you why I say that right down here. It says, all these are the tribes of Israel. Israel's 12 tribes is what it's saying. All these are Israel's 12 tribes. And this is what their father spoke to them. He's speaking to more than just the sons. He's speaking to the whole seed of the sons. Well, again, the last thing he says is he's dying. He wants to be buried. Look what it says. In the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron the Hittite as a possession for a burial place. There they buried Abraham, just so we know what we're talking about. It's the place where we buried Abraham and Sarah, his woman. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah, his woman. And there I buried Leah. It says, the field and the cave that is there were purchased from the sons from Heth's seed. Heth's seed. Look what it just said in verse 30. From which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron the Hittite. How does a Hittite relate to a son of Heth or Heth's seed? Well, it was about 3 months earlier, 3 months ago, that we realized that a Hittite and Heth's seed, the sons of Heth is almost always how it's translated, are the same guys. The seed of Heth are Hittites. It's just because they transliterate it with an I instead of an E. Talking about the same group of people. Oh, that helped my understanding greatly when I realized that every time we're talking about Hittites, we're talking about sons of Heth. We get confused. Look at this. We get confused because of this. When we see Heth, Canaan begat Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, the Jebusite. Why does it say Jebusite? Maybe he's a Jebusite too. But the seed of Heth, just like Sidon is the Sidonites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hittites are the Hittites. Ooh, so interesting to see these things. I've got to remind you about it periodically so that you keep that in your mind. The more times you hear it, the better chance you're going to have of remembering this. I discovered it, so it's easier for me, but even it's hard for me to remember it sometimes. Well, this is where we left off. He asked them to take him and bring him to this cave and bury him there. This is a big deal. Wait till you see what a big deal it is. The next chapter that we're going to talk to that we did not deal with yet was the burial of Joseph. We're going to go through it today. But before we do that, I want to take us to Yasher. I want to, again, finish the review that we did in Yasher. We only did 18 or 19 verses in Yasher last week. So let's talk about that. Oh, no, did I shut my Yasher? No, I didn't. Okay, here it is. Good. Here it is. Let's just go over it real quick. Here's the four men: Reuben, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin. So 3 sons of Leah, 1 son of Rachel, Joseph's brother, and Jacob went down and went up and talked to Pharaoh. Yeah, it moves. This is such a large document. If you touch that slider on the side, you just really mess things up big time. Okay, let me do this. Close this. Close this. Move this up here. It gives us a little bit more room. All right. Here is talking about the second year. That is in the 130th year of the life of Jacob. It says Joseph is going to give them bread. He's going to give them land, clothes, garments. It says Jacob always ate at Joseph's table. I don't think he always ate at Joseph's table. It means that Joseph is providing Jacob and his whole house the bread that they're going to eat. They're still in a famine. They're not paying for this bread. It's coming to Jacob's house, Jacob and his house, all his seed from Pharaoh through Joseph. Well, it's talking about the lands that Joseph got. Joseph purchased all the lands and the fields of Egypt for bread. He got all the silver and the gold, the onyx stone, the bdellium, the valuable garments, everything that people had of value they were trading for food. 7-year famine. How many people can last 7 years? Do you have enough savings to last you for 7 years? Wow, that would be pretty tough, wouldn't it? Well, he talked about where he buried the gold, but here's something that's interesting, and this is what caused me to go back and look at this last week. It says, and Joseph was very aged. Joseph? Very aged? We said Joseph was like 56. No, it wasn't Joseph, it was Jacob. Jacob was very aged, advanced in days, and his 2 sons, remember we're talking about your 2 sons will be my 2 sons. His 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, remained constantly in the house of Jacob, together with who? The seed of Jacob's seed, their brethren, to learn the ways of Yahovah and his law. The senior member in Yahovah's kingdom is Jacob. He's the one that knows Yahovah's statutes and judgments and ordinances. He's the one that knows Yahovah, and he's going to teach the brethren, their brethren, the sons of Jacob's seed, or the seed of Jacob's sons, maybe a better way to say it, the ways of Yahovah and his law, his Torah. Well, here's where I really realized it last week that I had kind of misled you. Remember, we were fruitful and multiplied for that 71 years. It was once we came under the rule of Pharaoh that we began to multiply, but not to be fruitful. We're going to see it's only the Levites who are going to, or it's everybody but the Levites who's going to work for Pharaoh. Isn't that interesting? Well, here's where we're going to pick up today. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. And the days of Jacob and the years of his life are 147 years. Joseph is now 56, and his brothers are 56 through 62. Most of the brothers' sons have families of their own. Joseph's sons are now 22 years old. Did you hear that? What is in your mind when he brings his sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and Joseph says, these are now my sons, Ephraim and Manasseh? How old are they in your mind? 22 years old? They certainly weren't 22 years old in my mind. They were much younger. I pictured them 5, 6, 7. At that time, Jacob was attacked with that illness of which he died. And he sent and called for his son Joseph from Egypt. Hear that? I thought he was always at Joseph's table. No, he wasn't. He was provided for by Joseph. He sent and called for his son Joseph from Egypt. And Joseph, his son, came from Egypt, and Joseph came unto his father. And Jacob said unto Joseph and unto his sons, behold, I die. The Elohim of your ancestors will visit you and bring you back to the land, which Yahovah swore to give unto you and unto your seed, or unto your sons after you. Girls don't own land. Ladies don't own land. Men always are the ones who own the land. Now therefore, when I am dead, bury me in the cave which is in Machpelah, in Hebron, in the land of Canaan, near my ancestors. And Jacob made his sons swear to bury him in Machpelah, in Hebron. And his sons swore unto him concerning this thing. His sons swore unto him, and he commanded them, his sons, saying, serve Yahovah your Elohim. For he who delivered your fathers will also deliver you from all trouble. What's he telling his sons? Don't serve Pharaoh. Serve Yahovah, your lawmaker and judge. He is the one who delivered your fathers, and he will also deliver you from all trouble. Oh, wise words spoken from the senior member of Yahovah's kingdom. We got to remember this stuff. And Jacob said, call all your sons unto me, and all Jacob's seed's sons. Hear that? Jacob's seed's sons came and sat before him. And Jacob blessed them. And he said unto them, Yahovah, Elohim of your fathers, shall grant you 1,000 times as much, and bless you, and may he give you. Remember, we're talking about who? The sons' sons. The sons' sons. And may he give you the blessings of your father Abraham. And all the sons, all Jacob's seed sons went forth on that day after he blessed them. There was a large group of people here. This was not just the sons, this was the sons' sons, the seed. Remember, we were talking about getting the blessings and the curses. It was the tribes. The tribes were there. Blessings and the curses. Prophetic utterances. Really, I think is a better way to say that. And on the next day, Jacob again called for his sons. And they all assembled and came to him and sat before him. This is just the sons now, I think. And Jacob on that day blessed his sons before his death. Each man, well, maybe this is more. This says sons. Maybe it's call for his seed. Because now we're talking about what? We're talking about the same thing. Each man did he bless according to his blessings? Behold, is it written in the book of the law, in the Torah of Yahovah appertaining to Israel? The answer is yes, it is written there, isn't it? And Jacob said unto Judah, I know, my son, that thou art a mighty man for thy brethren. Reign over them, and thy sons shall reign over their sons forever. Only teach thy sons the bow and all the weapons of war, in order that they may fight the battles of their brother, who will rule over his enemies. Hear that? We teach our sons how to make war. Jacob's sons knew how to make war. Remember when those Amorites came against us? 30, 40, 50,000 men against 123, counting Jacob. Actually, I think it was 113, counting Jacob. We knew how to make war. We had been trained with the bow and with the sword, the javelin, the spear. We don't teach our sons those things, do we? Maybe we should. And Jacob again commanded his sons on that day, saying, Behold, I shall be this day gathered unto my people. Carry me up from Egypt, and bury me in the cave of Machpelah, as I commanded you. Howbeit, take heed, I pray you, that none of your sons carry me, only yourselves. Isn't this interesting? We already saw Jacob was 56, and his brothers were 56 to 62. Howbeit, take heed, I pray you, that none of your sons carry me, only yourselves. And this is the manner you shall do unto me, when you carry my body to go with it to the land of Canaan to bury me. Well, I want to open something for you. Let me see if I can find it. I knew I had something else that I needed to open before this class. Couldn't think about what it was. Let me do this. I want to go to Dropbox, Public, Sabbath class. No, Sabbath class pictures. And I want this picture right here. I put it up on my eSword. Look at this. This is really interesting. I'll do the slider here. Can you see that all right? This is the way that we marched in the wilderness. This is the way we camped in the wilderness. On the east side, we had Judah, Issachar, Zebulun. Let's take a look at what he says here. Remember, he says, don't let your sons carry me, only you. Listen what he says. Judah, Issachar, Zebulun shall carry my bier on the east side. Reuben, Simeon, and Gad on the south side. There it is. Reuben, Simeon, Gad. Look at the east side or the west side. Ephraim, Manasseh, Benjamin. Here it is. Ephraim, Manasseh, Benjamin on the west. And Dan, Asher, and Naphtali on the north. Dan, Asher, Naphtali on the north. Isn't that interesting? Prophetic utterances. Shadow pictures of things to come. He says, let not Levi carry with you, for he and his sons will carry the ark of the covenant of Yahovah with the Israelites in the camp. What? We don't even have an ark of the covenant yet. And Jacob in our 17th year in Egypt is talking about the Ark of the Covenant and that Levi is going to carry it. Levi? Why Levi? Look at this. No, I'll just read it. And it was after the death of Rachel that Jacob pitched his tent in the tent of her handmaid Bilhah, near the tent. Can't be in the tent. And Reuben was jealous for his mother, Leah, on account of this. And he was filled with anger, and he rose up in his anger and went and entered the tent of Bilhah. And he thence removed his father's bed. I think he slept with Bilhah. Slept with Bilhah so that his father couldn't sleep with Bilhah anymore. At that time, the portion of the birthright, hear that? At that time, the portion of the birthright, together with the kingly and the priestly offices. What is this telling us? Looks to me like the Melchizedek priesthood is going to be broken up. And before this, it used to go to the eldest son. At that time, the portion of the birthright, together with the kingly and the priestly offices, was removed from the seed of Reuben, the firstborn. For he had profaned his father's bed. And the birthright was given to Joseph. Hear that? The double portion was given to Joseph. That worked out well because Ephraim and Manasseh each got one. That's the double portion. What does it say next? The kingly office to Judah. He was just talking about Judah ruling over his brethren and his seed. And the priesthood unto Levi, because Reuben had defiled his father's bed. The priesthood is going to be given to Levi. But look what he says, let not Levi carry with you, for he and his sons will carry the ark of the covenant of Jehovah with the Israelites in the camp. He's talking about the camp. We were just talking about how the camp is organized. He says, neither let Joseph, my son, carry, for as a king, so let his glory be. Howbeit Ephraim and Manasseh, listen to that, Ephraim and Manasseh, not Manasseh and Ephraim, shall be in his stead. No, their stead. Whose stead? Levi and Joseph. Thus you shall do unto me when you carry me away. Do not neglect anything of all that I command you. And it shall come to pass when you do this unto me, that Jehovah will remember you favorably, and your seed forever. There's things that we have got to remember. And you, my sons, honor each his brother and his relative, and command your seed and your son's seed, your sons, you could say, your sons and your son's seed after you, to serve Jehovah of your ancestors all the days, not going to serve Pharaoh. It's always about sons. It's not about daughters. Look at this. We miss it. We don't see it, because translators screw it up most often. Look at this, is Deuteronomy 6, 1 and 2. Now this is the same chapter that has the great Shema. Teach these blessings to your son. We always say children. To your sons. Now this is the commandment. These are the statutes and the judgments which Jehovah your Elohim has commanded to teach you, that you may observe them in the land which you are crossing over to possess, that you may fear Jehovah your Elohim, to keep his statutes and his commandments which I commanded you. This is what he says, you and your son and your grandson all the days of your life, and that your seed may be prolonged. It's always about the sons and the sons' sons, the seed of a man. In order that you may prolong your days. Didn't he just say that? All the days of your life, and that your days may be prolonged. In order that you may prolong your days in the land, you and your sons sons forever. When you do what is good and upright in the sight of Yahovah, your Elohim, to go in all his ways. Now, look at this. And thou, Joseph, my son, he's talking now specifically to Joseph. Forgive, I pray thee, the wrongs of thy brethren, and all their misdeeds in injury that they heaped upon thee. Torah talks about, remember that your father, you promised your father that you would forgive us. Well, in Torah it never says that he promised them. They just say it. Well, here it is. In the injury that they heaped upon thee, for Elohim intended it for thine, and thy son's benefit. If it benefits the son, it's going to benefit the son's families. And, O my son, leave not thy brethren to the inhabitants of Egypt. Neither hurt their feelings, for behold, I consign them to the hand of Elohim, and to thy hand to guard them from the Egyptians. Isn't this what I was saying just a little while ago? He's going to command Joseph to protect his family from the Egyptians. They're supposed to only serve the Elohim, the creator of heaven and earth. And, O my son, leave not thy brethren to the inhabitants of Egypt, neither hurt their feelings. For behold, I consign them to the hand of Elohim, and to thy hand to guard them from the Egyptians. And Jacob's seed, listen to this. He's talking to Joseph. But Jacob's seed, they like what he's saying. Forgive them, guard them. And now Jacob's seed answered their father, saying, O our father, all that thou hast commanded us, so we will do. May Elohim only be with us. May Elohim be their only lawmaker and judge. Oh, so beautiful. They understand it here. They're going to forget it in just a few years. 50 years from now, 60 years, 57 years from now, they're going to forget. And Jacob said unto his sons, so may Elohim be with you when you keep all his ways. Turn not from his ways either to the right or the left, in performing what is good and upright in his sight. For I know that many and grievous troubles will befall you in the latter days in the land. Yea, your sons and your sons' sons only serve Yahovah, and he will save you from all trouble. Hear that? Learn to serve only Yahovah, and he will save you from all trouble. Oh, the covenants that we have with these other Elohim are going to destroy us in these last days. We've got to learn to be separate from the world. And it shall come to pass when you shall go after Elohim to serve him, and will teach your sons after you and your sons' sons to know Yahovah. Hear that? To know Yahovah. Then will Yahovah raise up unto you and your seed a servant Who's the servant that he's going to raise up? It's going to be Moses. From among your sons. And Jehovah will deliver you through his hand from all affliction and bring you out of Egypt and bring you back to the land of your fathers to inherit it securely. And Jacob ceased commanding his sons, and he drew his feet into the bed. He died and was gathered to his people. Oh, he will be missed. Oh, I love Jacob. Well, the final chapter we're going to cover right now. You know, this is the 51st week that we have been in Genesis. Almost an entire year. And while I'm thinking about it, let me just say, next week is Passover. Saturday is Passover Eve, the 23rd. The 24th is going to be the first day of unleavened bread. And because I'm going to be some other part of the world keeping Passover with 5 or 6 men who have never kept Passover before, isn't that exciting? They asked me to come and lead them. We're not going to do a class next week. So here is the notice. Next week, no class. We will be back as usual the following week, okay? He died and was gathered to his people. Well, this says that we got to go to Genesis 50. Let's go there. He just died in 49. Then Joseph fell on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel. 40 days were required for him, for such are the days required for those who are embalmed. And the Egyptians mourn for him 70 days. Look at that. The Egyptians are mourning for Jacob. Now, when the days of mourning were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, if now I have found favor in your eyes. Well, he's found favor in Pharaoh's eyes for certain, hasn't he? He's brought wealth into Egypt. He's brought uprightness into Egypt, equity into Egypt. They love him. Well, most of them love him. If now I found favor in your eyes, please speak in the hearing of Pharaoh, saying, my father made me swear, saying, behold, I am dying. In my grave, which I dug for myself. Did you hear that? Jacob dug his own grave in the land of Canaan. There you shall bury me. Now therefore, please let me go up and bury my father, and I will come back. And Pharaoh said, go up and bury your father as he made you swear. So Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went all Pharaoh's servants. This is the same construction grammatically that B'nai Israel is. They always translate it as the servants of. No definite article. The of is there because they're the servants that belong to Pharaoh. Pharaoh's servants. I thought that was just interesting. The elders, who's going up? Pharaoh's servants. So Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went all Pharaoh's servants. Who are the Pharaoh's servants? Here they are. The elders of his house and all the elders of the land of Egypt, the heads of all the families of Egypt, as well as the house of Joseph, his brothers, and his father's house. Look what it says. Only their little ones. This is tough that we're talking about. Only their little ones, their flocks and the herds they left in the land of Goshen. We're not talking here about little ones. We're talking about families. These are all men who are going up to Canaan to bury Jacob. They're going to go armed, we're going to see. There aren't going to be ladies here. We don't want to defile our camp. This is a holy camp. Oh, so very interesting. Only the families, their flocks, their herds they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen. And it was a great gathering. You know what? This is one of the few times in Torah that they do an inkling of what we're going to see in Yasher. Oh, what we see in Yasher is so much more. You're going to be amazed. Then they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan. Beyond the Jordan. You know, I read this and I thought, beyond the Jordan? Does this mean that they went from Egypt across the Jordan and then back to the cave at Machpelah to bury him? That makes no sense at all. Not when you're talking that large amount of people, especially armed. Remember, Canaan, are they going to consider this huge amount of men coming? Wait till you see how many it is. Thousands, armed. A threat? I would consider it a threat, except that I already belong to Pharaoh. My land belongs to Pharaoh. It's all Pharaoh's. Traded it for food. Still paying tribute. Still paying that yearly tax to Pharaoh. Why does it say beyond the Jordan? Here, Atad, thorn, a place where Joseph and his brethren went on their way from Egypt to Hebron. Beyond the Jordan will thus be from the standpoint of east of the Jordan, where Moses is the writer. This is one person's idea. Moses is writing this from the east side of the Jordan. That's his idea. Here's somebody else that said oh, maybe I have that in my other note. Let's just see what this one says. This is Yasher 56:42. And Joseph went up with a heavy camp. And they did after this manner every day until they reached the land of Canaan. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is on the other side of the Jordan. Then they mourned exceeding a great and exceeding mourning in that place. I guess this really isn't talking very much about the land of the Jordan. I've got another note we're going to get to that day. Or maybe it's even in the next verse, perhaps. My point was that all the kings of Canaan heard of this, and they all went forth. This was a gathering place, it appears to me, where the kings of Canaan came to honor Jacob. Remember, Jacob dwelt with them for many, many years. They paid tribute to Jacob for many years because Jacob was so strong. Let's go on. It says, and they mourned there with a great and very solemn lamentation. And he observed 7 days of mourning for his father. And when the inhabitants of the land of Canaan saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, they said, this is deep mourning for the Egyptians. The Egyptians, mourning for the Egyptians. Abel Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is Egypt. Therefore, its name was called Abel Mitzrayim. The mourning of the Egyptians. The threshing floor of Atad. Oh, here's the other one. I guess I just put this note on the wrong verse. It says this side of the Jordan and the other side of the Jordan is used quite often. It is used its use is controlled on whether or not Israel is in their land. The 2 tribes and a half have received their inheritance on this side of the Jordan, across from Jericho, eastward toward the sunrise. That's really interesting that it has to do with whether or not we're in our land or outside of our land. Well, these were just some examples. I'm not going to go into those right now. I want to get a little further along today. So his sons did for him just as he had commanded them. For his sons carried him to the land of Canaan. Hear that? Torah never says anything about how his sons are to carry their father. But here it says his sons carried him. Of course, we would think that Levi and Joseph carried him too, wouldn't we? For his sons carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron the Hittite as property for a burial place. And after he had buried his father, Joseph returned to Egypt. Joseph returned to Egypt, he and his brothers and all who went up with him to bury his father. That's it? Oh my goodness! Wait till you see how much is left out of this. It's amazing. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, perhaps Joseph will hate us and may actually repay us for all the evil which we did to him. So they sent to Joseph, saying, before your father died, he commanded, saying, thus you shall say to Joseph, I beg you, please forgive the trespass of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. Well, he never said that in Torah, but now we know he did say that. Yasher tells us he did. Now please forgive the trespasses of the servants of Elohim of your father. And Joseph went, and Joseph wept when they spoke to him. They don't get it. He has forgiven them 17 years prior. He saw their repentance. He saw they were getting ready to destroy Egypt to save his brother Benjamin and perhaps even himself when he says, would you give your lost brother if I could find him? No, he forgave him long ago. He's weeping. I think he's weeping because they still don't get it. They still don't feel safe. Then his brothers also went and fell down before his face. And they said, behold, we are your servants, your Avadim. Joseph said to them, do not be afraid, for am I in the place of Elohim? It's not mine to judge. But as for you, you meant evil against me. But Elohim meant it for good, in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people alive. This is 17 years that they've been in Egypt now, and they're still concerned about it. They've been blessed these last 17 years, protected by Joseph, fed by Joseph, clothed by Joseph. Now therefore, do not be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones. He's still providing for them, you and your families. You're tough. Tafim. Well, this is tough. This Kaf Mem says your, plural, second person plural. Your families. Now therefore, but it's tough. Tough is the word that we're talking about there. Family. Sometimes tripping, or sometimes children, but most often families. Now therefore, do not be afraid. I will provide for you, for your little ones, your families. And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. So Joseph dwelt in the land of Egypt, he and his father's household. And Joseph lived 110 years. Joseph saw Ephraim's seed to the third generation. Hear that? Ephraim had multiple seed. But look what it says about Manasseh. It says, the seed of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were also brought up on Joseph's knees. Joseph's knees. It sounds to me like Joseph was now the one who was in his father's stead, teaching the sons and the sons' sons the ways of Jehovah. Could that be? And Joseph said to his brethren, I am dying. Now Joseph is dying. Wow, we're really moving along fast. 71 years have just gone by. He lived 71 years after Jacob died. I'm dying. But Elohim will surely visit you and bring you out of this land to the land of which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Wow, Joseph is a man of faith. Then Joseph took an oath from Israel's seed. Israel's seed. Elohim will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here. So Joseph died, being 110 years old. And they embalmed him and put him in a coffin in Egypt. I put Joseph ruled for 80 years. Well, this is just a note I put together on kind of the timeline of Joseph as to where he was. Joseph dies. He lived in Egypt 93 years. 93 years, 13 years, plus the other 80 years that he was in Egypt by himself as a servant in Egypt. Yeah, that works out perfectly then. All right. And if we took 17 plus 93, we end up with the 110 years old of which he dies. It works out perfectly. Okay, this finishes Genesis. Wow, look at this. Let's look at the first little verses of Exodus. Now these are the names of Israel's seed who came to Egypt. Each man, Israel's seed are men, and his household came with Jacob. 70 persons. But now, look at what it says here in verse 8. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, who did not know Joseph. Well, there's a lot that is going to happen between this point, Joseph dying, well, I guess this is when it raises up. When Joseph dies, there's a new king that's going to be raised up who does not know Joseph. We're going to see how it all works together in future weeks. But we've got a lot to cover right now concerning Moses, concerning what happened in those times, how we were treated in Egypt, how we were tricked into serving Pharaoh, what happened to us. Oh my goodness, there's so much more to see. Let's go back to Yasher. I'm going to pick up here in verse 23. And Joseph fell upon his fathers, and he cried out and wept over him. And he kissed him, and he called out in a bitter voice. And he said, Avi, Avi. And his sons, women, and all his household came and fell upon Jacob. And they wept over him and cried in a very loud voice concerning Jacob. And all Jacob's seed rose up together, and they tore their garments. And they all put sackcloth on their loins. And they fell upon their faces, and they cast dust upon their heads towards the heaven. Why do they cast dust upon their heads toward the heavens? Do you think it might have something to do with dust you are, dust you came, and dust you shall go back to? I've always wondered about that. I think there's something there. I can't prove it, but I think that's why they put dust on their heads. Maybe it's to remind them that they're dust, to help them understand the vanity of this life. Could that be? It says, and the thing was told Othniel, Joseph's woman, and she rose up and put on a sack, and she, with all the Egyptian women, went with her and mourned and wept for Jacob. You know what? I'm not sure I've ever seen a woman put dust on herself, wearing sackcloth but not putting dust on themselves. Maybe that's a man thing, because man was created from the dust. Woman was created from the man. And also, all the people of Egypt who knew Jacob came all that day when they heard this thing. And all Egypt wept for many days. And also from the land of Canaan did the women come unto Egypt. Isn't that interesting? The women came unto Egypt when they heard that Jacob was dead. And they wept for him in Egypt for 70 days. And it came to pass after this that Joseph commanded his servants, the doctors, to embalm his father. And the doctors embalmed Jacob as Joseph had commanded them. And all the people of Egypt, and the elders, and all the inhabitants of the land of Goshen wept and mourned over Jacob. And all his sons and his children of his household, lamented and mourned over their father Jacob many days. And after the days of weeping had passed away, at the end of 70 days, this must be when the embalming is over, because it was 70 days that it took. First 40 days were required for him, for such are the days that required for those who are embalmed, and the Egyptians mourned for him. Oh, for the mourning. So it was 40 days for the embalming, 70 days for the mourning. At the end of 70 days, Joseph said unto Pharaoh, I will go up and bury my father in the land of Canaan, as he made me swear, and then I will return. And Pharaoh sent Joseph, saying, Go up and bury thy father, as he said, and as he made thee swear. And Joseph rose up with all his brethren to go to the land of Canaan to bury their father Jacob, as he had commanded them. And Pharaoh commanded that it should be proclaimed throughout Egypt, saying, Whoever does not go up with Joseph and his brethren to the land of Canaan to bury Jacob shall die. Wow, this is why I say all the males are going up, the heads of the households. And all Egypt heard of Pharaoh's proclamation, and they were all rose up together, and all the servants, the Avadim, men of Pharaoh, and the elders of his house, men, elders, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, again, men, went up with Joseph, and all the officers, and the nobles, men of Pharaoh went up as the servants, again, men, Avadim, of Joseph, and they went to bury Jacob in the land of Canaan. And Jacob's seed, men, carried the bier, this is his sons, carried the bier upon which he lay, according to all that their father commanded them. So did his sons unto him. And the bier was of pure gold. A bier. You know, most people these days, they don't know what a bier is. When Kennedy was buried, they had a kind of a cart that that rolled down the street, and he was on the cart. But this is something that these men are carrying. This thing is huge. You know, it's big enough that it holds Jacob, at least embalmed Jacob, and the buyer, and can have 3 sons on one side, 3 sons on another side, all the way around. And the buyer was pure gold, and it was inlaid round about with onyx stones and bdellium. And the covering of the buyer was gold woven work, joined with threads, and over them were hooks of onyx stones and bdellium. Remember, these sons are amazingly strong. This is not a hard thing for them to carry. Remember, Joseph threw up a rock, or Jacob threw up the rock, caught it, dropped it on the ground. Manasseh did the same thing when he was 5 years old. No, these guys are strong. And Joseph placed upon the head of his father, Jacob, a large golden crown. And he put a golden scepter in his hand. And they surrounded the buyer, as was the custom of kings during their lives. And all the troops of Egypt went before him in this array. At first, all the mighty men of Pharaoh, and the mighty men of Joseph, and after them the rest of the inhabitants of Egypt. And they were all girded with swords, and equipped with coats of mail, and trappings of war were upon them. Nobody's going to mess with this troop. And all the weepers and mourners went at a distance opposite to the buyer, going and weeping and lamenting. And the rest of the people went after the buyer. And Joseph and his household went together near the buyer, barefooted and weeping. And the rest of Joseph's servants went around him. Each man had his ornament upon him. And they were all armed with their weapons of war. And 50 of Jacob's servants went in front of the buyer. And they strewed along the road myrrh and aloes and all manner of perfumes. And all Jacob's seed that carried the buyer walked upon the perfumery. And Jacob's seed went before them strewing the perfume along the road. And Joseph went up with a heavy camp. And they did after this manner every day until they reached the land of Canaan. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is on this side of the Jordan. Well, I read you that note. And they mourned an exceeding great mourning and great and heavy mourning in that place. And all the kings of Canaan, remember I said this is a place where the kings of Canaan came to give honor to Jacob. And all the kings of Canaan heard of this thing. And they all went forth, each man from his house. 31 kings of Canaan. And they all came with their men to mourn and weep over Jacob. Again, it's all about the men. And all these kings beheld Jacob's buyer. And behold, Joseph's crown was upon it. And they also put their crowns upon the buyer and encircled it with crowns. Oh, what great honor! What other king in the world has ever been given crowns from other kings when they were buried? And all these kings made in that place a great and heavy mourning with Jacob's seed and Egypt over Jacob. For all the kings of Canaan knew the valor of Jacob and his sons. Yeah, you betcha they did. They submitted to him when he lived there. They paid him tribute every year. And the report reached Esau. Oh no! Saying Jacob died in Egypt, and his sons and all Egypt are conveying him to the land of Canaan to bury him. He knows where they're going. Now, look at it. It's going to make him sound good. But this is a wicked, wicked man. Remember, Jacob is the man of the Spirit. He has always ordered his life in relation to Jehovah's word. Esau has been the man of the flesh. Remember, he killed Nimrod. Do you remember that? Oh, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Maybe I'm going to get ahead of my story. Esau heard this thing, and he was dwelling in Mount Seir. He rose up with his sons, men, and all the people of his household, talking about men again, a people exceedingly great, and they came to mourn and weep over Jacob. And it came to pass, when Esau came, he mourned for his brother Jacob. What a nice guy, huh? And all Egypt and all Canaan again rose up and mourned a great mourning with Esau over Jacob in that place. And Joseph and his brethren brought their father Jacob from that place, Atad, and they went to Hebron to bury Jacob in the cave by his father. And they came unto Kirjath Arba, to the cave. And as they came, Esau stood with his sons against Joseph and his brethren as a hindrance in the cave, saying, Jacob shall not be buried therein, for it belongeth to us and our father. What? What? Liar, liar, pants on fire! He's playing on Joseph's ignorance. He thinks Joseph doesn't know. And Joseph and his brother heard the words of Esau's sons, and they were exceedingly wroth. You don't want to get Jacob's seed exceedingly wroth. It's going to go bad for you. And Joseph approached unto Esau, saying, What is this thing which you have spoken? Surely my father, this is Joseph, surely my father Jacob bought it from thee for great riches after the death of Isaac. Yes, he did. Now 25 years ago. And also the land of Canaan he bought from thee and from thy sons and thy seed after thee. You have no possession here whatsoever. Remember, he gave up everything to take this land, even though it was firmly in the hands of the Canaanites at the time. And Jacob bought it for his sons and his seed after him for an inheritance forever. Remember, Esau took everything: silver, gold, bdellium, servants, goats, sheep, cattle, everything of value. He hauled off with him to Seir. Said, Joseph, you can have the land and the cave. But now look what's happening. And Esau answered, saying, Thou speakest falsely, and utterest lies. For I sold not anything belonging to me in all this land, as thou sayest. Neither did my brother Jacob buy aught belonging to me in this land. And Esau spoke these things, why? In order to deceive Joseph with his words. For Esau knew that Joseph was not present in those days when Esau sold all belonging to him in the land of Canaan to Jacob. And Joseph said unto Esau, Surely my father inserted these things thee in a record of purchase, and testified the record with witnesses. And behold, it is with us in Egypt. Let me read this to you. This is a bit lengthy, but I think it's really important that we see this and remember this. Remember Nebaioth? He is the sister of one of Esau's wives. And Nebaioth said, What is this that Jacob has spoken unto thee? Behold, all Canaan's seed are dwelling securely in the land. And Jacob saying, He will inherit it with his seed all the days. Go now therefore and take all thy father's riches, and leave Jacob thy brothers in the land as he has spoken. And Esau rose and returned to Jacob, and did all that Nebaioth, the son of Ishmael, had advised. And Esau took all the riches that Isaac had left, the souls, that's the servants, the beasts, the cattle, the property, and all riches. He gave nothing to his brother Jacob. Jacob took the land of Canaan from the brook of Egypt unto the river Euphrates, brook of Egypt. And he took it for an everlasting possession for his seed, for his sons and his seed after him forever. Jacob also took from his brother Esau the cave of Machpelah, which is in Hebron, which Abram had bought from Ephron, the Hittites, for a possession of a burial place for him and for his seed forever. And Jacob wrote all these things in a book of purchase, and he signed it, and he testified all this with 4 faithful witnesses. There's not going to be any room for any doubt who this land belongs to. And these are the words that Jacob wrote in the book, saying, the land of Canaan, and all the cities of the Hittites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, all the 7 nations from the river of Egypt unto the river Euphrates. And the city of Hebron, Kirjath Arba, and the cave which is in it, the whole did Jacob buy from his brother Esau for value, for a possession and for an inheritance for his seed after him forever. And Jacob took the book of purchase and the signature, the command and the statutes and the revealed book, and he placed them in an earthen vessel in order that they should remain for a long time. And he delivered them into the hands of his sons. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Here is Esau saying, this is Joseph saying to Esau, surely my father inserted these things with thee. He knows his father. He knows his father's not a sloppy businessman. And Esau answered, saying unto him, bring the record, all that thou wilt find in the record, so shall we do. Liar, liar, pants on fire. And Joseph called unto Naphtali his brother, and he said, hasten quickly, stay not, and run, I pray thee, to Egypt, and bring all the records of the purchase, the sealed record and the open record. They apparently had a sealed record and an open record so that you didn't have to open another one. You didn't have to open the sealed one and contaminate it. And all the first records in which all the transactions of the birthright are written. Fetch thou, and thou shalt bring them unto us hither, that we may know from them all the words of Esau and his sons, which they spoke this day. And Naphtali hearkened to the voice of Joseph, and he hastened and ran down to Egypt. And Naphtali was lighter on his feet than any of the stags that were among the wilderness, for he would go upon ears of corn without crushing them. And when Esau saw that Naphtali had gone to fetch the records, he and his sons increased their resistance against the cave. We're going to be found in our lie. And Esau and all his people rose up against Joseph and his brethren to battle. Esau is the most wicked man. We just, Torah hardly gives us an inkling about how wicked Esau is. We, in our ignorance, think that Esau has been mistreated. He sold the birthright after he killed Nimrod. For heaven's sakes. He was never to get the blessing. It had to go to Jacob because of the word that came through Noah and Shem and Abraham, saying that the older shall serve the younger. You can't give the elder the blessing. It goes against Jehovah's word. And the sons of Jacob and the people of Egypt fought with Esau and all his men. And the sons of Esau and all his people were smitten before the sons of Jacob. And the sons of Jacob slew of Esau's people 40 men. The people are men. And Cushim, remember Cushim, the son of Dan, the son of Jacob, was at that time with Jacob's sons. But he was about 100 cubits distance from the place of the battle, for he remained with Jacob's son's seed by Jacob's byre to guard it. Listen to what it says. This is Cushim. He's the only son of Dan. He only had one son. This is him. And Cushim was dumb and deaf. Still he understood the voice of consternation among men. And he asked, saying, "Why do you not bury the dead? And what is this great consternation?" And they answered him the words of Esau and his sons. And he ran to Esau in the midst of the battle. And he slew Esau with his sword, and he cut off his head. Esau just died. And it sprang to a distance, and Esau fell amongst the people of the battle. Oh my goodness. I got to read a couple notes here. Cushim, let's take a look at this one. Okay, yeah, we don't need that. And here's the one I want you to see. Look at this. This is just amazing. It says, Esau dies just like he lived. What happened to Esau? He got his head cut off. Look at this. Remember what Esau did to Nimrod? And all Nimrod's mighty men and his people were there with him in the wilderness. But they removed at a distance from him, and they went from him in a different direction to hunt. And Esau concealed himself for Nimrod. Here is a man lying in wait to murder. Rashak, I think is the word we use for that. Rashak. I'm pretty sure. Rashak. To murder. Well, let's take a quick look. This is an important word. We want to go to Exodus 20. Thou shalt not murder. Here it is. What is the word? Rashak. 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 Razak. Razak. Maybe that's a better way. Razak. Thou shalt not murder. He's the manslayer. This is what the manslayer does. You don't kill other men. Innocent men. Well, some may argue Nimrod wasn't exactly innocent, but this was a man lying in wait for Nimrod. Fulfilled prophecy, pretty interesting story, but yeah, this is something different. Listen what it says. And Esau concealed himself for Nimrod, and he lurked for him in the wilderness. And Nimrod and his men that were with him did not know him. And Nimrod and his men frequently walked about in the field and the cool of the day. Oh, and to know where his men were hunting in the field. And Nimrod and two of his men that were with him came to the place where they were when Esau started suddenly from his lurking place, drew his sword and hastened and ran to Nimrod and cut off his head. Here's a great case of what goes around comes around. Esau got his head cut off. Isn't it interesting? He got it cut off by somebody who was deaf and dumb. Wonder what the significance of that is. And when Cushim did this thing, Jacob's seed prevailed over Esau's seed. And Jacob's seed buried their father Jacob by force in the cave. And Esau's seed beheld it. And Jacob was buried in Hebron, in the cave of Machpelah, which Abram had bought from Hesed, for a possession of a burial place. And he was buried in very costly garments. And no king had such honor paid him as Joseph paid unto his father at his death. For he buried him with great honor, like unto the burial of kings. And Joseph and his brethren made a mourning for 7 days for their father. So once they got him in the ground, they're still going to mourn for their father. It's 1:38, 1:40. Let's do stop here. All right, well, next week, we're going to talk about Esau's seed waging war with Jacob, sons of Jacob. They're actually going to come to Egypt. Well, wait till you see what happens. It's going to be interesting. You know what? It's going to take them a long time to realize. A lot of men are going to die before they realize you can't fight against the sons of Jacob, the sons of Israel. Well, we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining me.
Not next week.
Oh, we won't see you next week. I will see you in 2 weeks. Remember, we're doing Passover next weekend. So I will not be here. I will not be online. So we got a week off. All right? Love you tons. Bye, guys.